What's going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. If you missed my last week's video or any of my previous week's videos, definitely check it out. We drop a weekly video every single week, and we try and predict where the price action is going for the week. In some of my videos, I do talk about more long-term price action, but I am more trying to nail down what the price is going to do last week. Now, if you did watch my last week's video, you'll know that I got the analysis wrong. My bias was short. Without kind of beating a dead horse and spending too much time as to why I leaned short, I will use this trend line to actually tell the story as to why I leaned short. It's real simple. We'll use a little bit of highlighting action. And you can see as we were trading below, I didn't necessarily see a long setup here. As when we were below, I didn't like that. And I didn't feel safe seeing NIO going higher. I saw some gaps on the downside. I felt like the pullback wasn't as big. We didn't get a big enough pullback. So I was thinking we'd see much lower on NIO. Now I flipped, and if this didn't break to the upside and we were still below, if we were still trading maybe at 640 or even 647 or a little bit lower, I would still be bearish. I would still be leaning bearish, but I can no longer lean bearish. It's green now. We're above. We now have a long setup. The best long setups are at the bottom of a trend line, at the bottom of an uptrend. Those are typically your best long setups. And if this does what I think it's going to do, you're going to go to your first Fibonacci trend line at around 844. Let's just call it 850 to round it up. You want to look for some confluence? I'm going to give you a new analysis here. Parallel analysis. Parallel channel. See that? You can see here, we're at the bottom here. And if this does what I think it's doing, it's just consolidating here. Can't see the scribbles here, but it's consolidating here. Gonna take us right to the top of that channel here. And that's our very first Fibonacci trend line. So good. And there's news to support that. I think like there was some good news that came out on the weekend. So why not? Let it rip. Let it go to the moon. That's my analysis going into next week. I did get last week's wrong, thinking it was going to go down, but I just shared with you why I felt that way. It was this. We were below this trend line. There was gaps on the downside. Now I can no longer keep my bias towards short. It's broken back above, and it did on such significant volume that I think it's just going to go way higher. First price target that I'm looking at is around 840. That's what I'm looking at. Take a peek right over here. That is my first price target right over there. 840 around. Let's just call it 850, 840, right around that price target. Second price target just under 10, and then you got $12 on the golden pocket. As we get very close into those levels, if any of you, I'm going to phrase it like this. If I had a really fat stack on NIO, knowing that NIO just rallied 120 to potentially 200%, I am hedging and taking some of my shares off the table to buy the dip. Okay. I do believe that it would be unrealistic to see this thing kind of go all the way up. Now, can it do that? Sure. I mean, just take a look right here. It absolutely can do something absolutely mental and absolutely crazy. I don't think that's going to be the case here, and we won't know until when we cross those bridges, until we cross that bridge when we get there. And I think because it's been on such a longer downtrend, this has been such a longer downtrend, I don't see it making that quick of a recovery. It's going to be a little bit of a harder uphill battle. Now, I will point something else out to you here. And we'll change the timeline. Oops. Let's change this for a second here. Something like that, right? The reason I'm showing you this, I'm sure some of you guys, especially those who've been with NIO for a long time, remember the summer rally. You want to see something interesting? It only gave back 50% of what it lost. Okay. If we were to give back 50% of what we lost here, that's at 993. Now, that's not to say it's going to play exactly the same way, but there's gaps to the downside that I am very alert from. So I will say this. I think there's an incredible long opportunity going into Monday. I think we're going to see continuation going into next week. What did I do wrong? Why does that not look right? There we go. And I think, hang on, that's more like it. And I think what's going to happen is we'll get that explosion. So if you don't go long here on Monday morning, or if you didn't get long on Friday when I suggested it's probably your most ideal long entry, I think Monday there's going to be a chance to ride this up to like 840. The next time you're going to get a chance to go long is when it comes back down to retest, which might not be till 7 or 720, which will be higher. Might go to 840, come back down. You know, it could do something like that. And keep an eye on this trend. All eyes on this trend, because when the price action's below, you need to be very, very cautious, which is what I was. I was cautious, and I'm not here to pump the stock. I'm not a stock pumper. I'm not here to pump this. I'm here to just drop my analysis. And if it looks bearish, I mean, those of you who followed me long enough have known I've taken my fair share of flack for being bearish. Some of you even accuse me of being a short hedge fund, like trying to FUD the stock and make it go down. Well, no, if it's bearish, it's bearish. If it's bullish, it's bullish. I'm here to just share that. And right now, I flipped my thesis to being long on Friday. So long as it holds that support, it is bullish. And if it bubbles here for a bit in the morning and on Monday morning, and then it takes all the way until noon, so be it. I see an explosion happening, and I see an opportunity to go long. If it breaks back below, I'm back in the same ballpark. Below that trend line, I'm leaning now more cautiously that we might actually see that pullback. So keep that in mind, guys. Right now, I'm very, very bullish. I think there's news that came out on the weekend about Envo deliveries coming out, being guaranteed to come before the end of the year. So based off that news, that I think NIO might actually get another lift. It also went 12.8%. Stocks don't run 12.8% and then just tank the very next day. I mean, they can, but like usually you see some continuation or some things topping out. I think you're going to see something more like this. Now, I guess my biggest point here that I want to make is I do see potential in the future for NIO to be much lower. And once this rally's over, I could see there being a really healthy, really big pullback that could come. And so if that's the case, please just make sure that there is a, that you actually hedge for that. That's what, sorry, I can't tell you what to do, but you're going to want to take a look as we get to these big levels. What I would do if I had a fat stack is I would be thinking about taking some off the table, having some fresh ammo to add back lower, because it's very likely that if we haven't gotten a pullback and next week we hit 840, that's probably where it'll be brick walled and it'll reject, and it'll give you a nice pullback at least into that trend line here or much lower. So as we get closer, the risk to reward, it starts to favor more being bearish. There's less risk to reward. Like there's less reward for kind of staying long the higher it goes. But I still see a lot of room to go up. And I hope I answered like any doubt as to why I flipped from bullish to bearish. It's essentially this line. It's gone up. It wouldn't have done that, in my opinion, if it wasn't going to get ready to explode higher. And I think this is what you're going to get. You're going to get something like that. Let's see. So let's watch the stock going into next week and see what happens. The Hang Seng is going absolutely crazy. I don't actually have time to actually drop my analysis and do a deeper dive into the Hang Seng. But if you just look at this chart, it just took out the previous high from May completely. And let's zoom out for a bit. It's taken out this high. And it looks like if it comes and takes out this high, look out all-time high. Like, it looks so good. The Dixie, not all-time low, but 52-week lows. So still, it's got the great setup here, and I'm not even looking anymore. We're in the midst of a rally here. It's all on NIO. Price action is really what's going to actually determine and dictate the price here. I'm going to be watching this trend line, and that's basically it. I expect there to be an explosion come Monday morning, launching this way higher. And this was your dip. That little dip, that's your time to get long. You wait for the confirmation to break. This whole time, if you waited this whole time and you didn't actually buy because you weren't sure, this is where you wanted to buy. That's where, in my opinion, smart money would come in and say, like, all right, let's rip it to the top of the channel, which is going to be right around 840. Let's see how it goes next week. I got last week wrong. I got 3 weeks prior to that. So let's see if we can. So I'm at a 75%. If we get this right, we'll go up to an 80%. If we're keeping track of actually, how many times I've been right, how many times I've wrong. It is NIO. NIO is a really hard stock to try and analyze. And even I'm going to get that wrong from time to time. There's not much to talk about from a velocity standpoint of view, other than that it broke the 200-day moving average on the 2-hour time frame on the regular time scale. So if you take a peek here, part of the reason also why I kind of leaned bearish is we were below, and it just broke right back up. Absolutely powerful. Super, super good. Super, super powerful. You love to see it. I think a big move is on the way, so long as this trend line holds. I'll drop my next weekend analysis video next week. If I see anything kind of significant kind of changing, I'll obviously drop my tweets. In the meantime, let you know if anything changes. Once again, I want to actually thank everybody who's been engaging and commenting on my videos. I do want to address that I'm not sure if I addressed this in the beginning of my video, but I'm going to say it again. I know some people have been commenting on my last video and I haven't gotten a chance to respond to them. I'm going to get back and respond to everybody in that last video. And I encourage you guys today to let me know. My question for you guys is, do you agree with me and think that NIO is going to go up next week? Or are you in the Elliott wave camp and think like we're at the top of this rally and we're going to see a pullback next week? Am I going to be wrong 2 weeks in a row? I don't know. Let's find out. I'm leaning to the upside. Let's see what happens going into next week. Thank you again so much, guys, for those of you who have been giving me the thumbs up, subscribing to my video, and engaging and commenting on it. I see each and every single one of you guys. Thank you so much. And with that said, I just want to say, I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Cheers, and have a good night.